And I say, was it the beginning of your own personal downward spiral?
No, I think my personal downward spiral started around a Cal Jamish. It's when I, because when there's a series of drug dealers in America, some are now dead, by the way, that used to follow Zepp and Stones and Purple and The Who, those four bands, because we had the same security team, and our security would say, oh, that was the last, because Mick Jagger was there, the same security guy. So we knew that, and these guys would grab hold of either the head of security or a road manager, or in this case me, because they knew I was flamboyant and I used to hang out in the bar in the hotel, and they figured out that I may have wanted to do, and the fact is I wasn't doing any coke, but they sort of, dealers would start to leave cocaine in my pockets, or on seats where I was sitting, very sort of dark and satanic. So eventually, it came to pass that I did get addicted, and it was sad. Remember, when I grew up as a boy in the Midlands, I didn't say to Mommy, when I grow up I really want to be a cocaine addict. It's not that way. It's just so some of us are of that ilk, and it's a sad tale, and that's why my book is so relevant.
I was like, because after the implosion of Deep Purple, you did the solo album, Play Me Out, and then you sort of went quiet for a few years.
Because I'm going to be honest with you, because when a man or a woman is drinking in addiction, recovery, when they're not in recovery, either you're three things: either you're a weekend warrior and you can handle it, either you get sober and clean, or either you're going to be out there out of your mind. And I was out of my mind, and my disease on my shoulder said to me, let's not make any albums, let's not pursue something with X, Y or Z, let's just sit home and let's look out the curtains and see if the boogeyman's out there. And that's what happened.
I was like, you spent most of the time indoors for many years?
Indoors. Gary Moore and I tried to put something together in 1980 with Sharon managing us, but I was too loaded, and Hughes came along when I was still loaded. It was
like a fan's favourite album.
But Pat and I managed to control and maintain our drug use. And the album cost about 400 grand to make. I think we spent about 200 grand on blow. So...
And also, you was making albums, but because of your health, you wasn't touring as such, were you? You sort of hooked up again.
I'll say again, if you look at my tourography in America, in the world, in the 80s, there was 7 gigs with Sabbath, the awful tour, and Hughes did 12 shows. 19 gigs in 10 years. Do you think there was a problem?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
I mean, like Metallica were just getting started on 17 gigs. I mean, it's like, so...
It was around that time where your drug addiction was becoming public knowledge, if you know what I mean.
I was a famous addict.
Because he did an album with Gary Moore, one for cover in '85, and there's like an infamous interview in Kerrang with Gary Moore, and I think he was staying at his house, and he said, you wake up in the morning, all the Mars bars been missing from the fridge.
No, actually, I made a sandwich in his fridge, and I made maybe a couple. And Gary had a thing with me about he thought it would be appropriate to talk about that and talk about my fondness for Cadbury's, and it was sad. And we fell out, and years later we made friends. And it was like what's the saddest thing of all is that when we were sort of friended each other, then he passes away, and that's like, you need to know that all those things were sorted out before Gary died, and we were even talking about doing something together. Which, regardless of that, I'm glad that I got to hug him before he passed away, and the feeling was mutual, and because I wasn't the man I was in '85 now. I'm a different person, and most of us in life have had our ups and downs, and
Well, I'd say because you was addicted when your weight was bloated, but it didn't affect your voice in any way. You still had the talent there.
I don't know what it was. I couldn't speak, but I could sing.
So obviously you hooked up with Tony Iommi on the 7 Star album.
It was a great
fantastic album. And in the book you said yourself, you yourself personally, you were Satan yourself. You described yourself.
There's 2 sides of me, and it really is a gallant Poish kind of Jekyll and Hyde-ish thing with me. I mean, like my friend Lemmy, when he has a drink or something, he can sort of maintain and be Lemmy. When I drink or use a drug, I become something completely different. I change in gait and posture. speak differently, and I become someone other than me, completely. And it's not a happy G. I'm not a bad guy, but I'm not the guy I want to be.
So what was the wake-up call? What made you turn around? What made you one day look in the mirror and think, I've got to change my
Because
life?
I was dying. Literally, physically. I was spiritually dead. But physically, within the hour, within 10 hours, I was going to die. And I went to the hospital, and they told me that that if I had gone to sleep that day, I would have been dead.
And was it someone waking you up? Was it your parents sort of saying something? Was it yourself?
It was me. Let's just say that, and every addict that's in recovery, I'm sure Ozzy's had the same thing. I had a moment of clarity when something went on in my head and went, okay, we can either do this now, okay, and then really face the consequences. And then I started to think about the trail of deceit and stuff. I'd leave my mother and father, their only son is now dead, famous death, drug addicted. I'd leave a trail of shit behind, for people to clean up, Somebody would have to pay the expenses to bury me, all the things that I thought how selfish it would be to die.
And how did you keep yourself busy? It's like with drug addicts, you need to do something else. So what was it you did exactly?
I got clean and sober. I started to obviously lift weights and run, and I lost, I don't know how many stone, but 70 pounds I lost. 4, 5 stone or something, and I lost that pretty quick. I maintained that for the last 19 years, and because a lot of people used to think, that fat guy, and yeah, because all I did was eat chips and snort coke, But when you put that down and you stop drinking booze, or beer in my case, beer, if you don't drink 2 cases of beer a day, you're going to lose weight, So.
And did you have to go for any spiritual guidance, like when you play live? You sometimes say, oh, thank you, Buddha, or God, or whatever. Did you go for some sort of spiritual enlightenment?
Let's be clear. My drug of choice is God, G-O-D. Some Buddha, some it's Muslim, some it's like a dog or a cat or a tree. It could be a woman. My higher power has been women. It's an altered women, But now it's something grander than that.
And thankfully, you turned your life full circle. And you've been non-stop making albums now for the last 10, 15 years now.
Yeah. Well, as I said before, I think if someone has the ability to write songs that are somewhat presentable, and I have a fan base that loves what I do, I'm not a kind of guy to sit around and talk about it, like I said in the book. Like, I know a lot of people that told me they're going to make a record, like in the millennium, and they still haven't made it. And it's like, I am a doer. I don't care what people say about me. It's none of my business. It's their business. So all I know is that I've made my mark on the industry. I've come back from complete disaster. You would have thought 20 years ago the next guy to die would be Glenn Hughes. If you look at a picture of Trapeze, you see Mel and Dave Holland and Glenn Hughes. You looked at 20 years ago, you thought, which one's going to go to jail for pedophilia? Which one's going to die and which one's going to be... It would have been all wrong. And I'm the last...
You're the last one, yeah. And one of the weird collaborations on your way back was with KLF, sort of the dance rave band. They did What Time Is Love in America. And was it, correct me if I'm wrong, was it there who dubbed you the voice of rock?
Yes, it was. It was that band, Jimmy and Bill, that wanted to call me the voice of rock on their single What Time Is Love. If you look at the single, you say voice of rock. And the graciousness of the rock press globally, well, more or less in the UK, Kerrang at the time, and they were actually significantly involved. They knew about my recovery, and it was kind of kept quiet, and they knew I was in Betty Ford, because all of my rock journalist friends were praying one last time, is he going to get sober? The Malcolm Duns and all your friends, the Davelings, and it just so happened that this time it worked, and the voice of rock has stuck. Now, it's something that people call me. I'm very grateful and humble to be called that. I don't particularly walk around telling you that I'm the voice of rock, so... But if people want to call me that, I'm very humble.
And last year you played the High Voltage Festival. You sort of worked with Tony Iommi again. You've done the album Hughes, fantastic album. Are you going to be working with Tony Iommi again in the future? Or?
Only the simple reason is when Tony and I get together, we write. So Tones and I, we almost got together shortly after Ronnie's passing, around the High Voltage time. But then I started to get really busy with BCC. Tony and I are so connected spiritually that, and our wives are really good mates, and I just love him. You know, who doesn't love him? I don't know if we'll work together in the near future, but I know that we will do something together.
There was talk of a tour once upon a time. Obviously, you're both busy, got your own little things going. It never quite happened.
The great thing about Tony is I just love him and depend on him and trust him so much as a person and professionally that anything I do with him will be class. And
let's talk about that little gig at High Voltage last year. Obviously, Ronnie's passing, it was like an end for heaven and hell. And it must be quite a highly emotive gig for you and the band to play. Describe that day to us.
Well, I have a lot of really good friends. Wendy was on the stage, and my wife, and some really dear friends of mine, you know, celebrities and people that I knew closely, and it's like, didn't make it. What I was concerned about was celebrating Ronnie's life, because he was a very, very, in Deep Purple, he was the one guy I befriended from out of the band when he was in the Elf.
Yeah, so it was a support band.
He was, and Ronnie, when he left Rainbow in '79, moved to LA to be close to my home. Him and Wendy with my first wife. So what people don't know is that the Dios and the Hugheses were inseparable for a long, long time, and we formed a major bond. So when Wendy called me to participate in singing at Ronnie's funeral, and of course at High Voltage, there was only going to be one answer. I'm not a replacement for Ronnie or Ozzy. I'll never do that again, because you can't replace Jagger and Dio and Osborne and Halford. You can't Robert Plant. You can't replace iconic figures in iconic bands. It's something I don't want to do again, simply because they're all my mates, and you know, there's certain things you can't do.
Well, great. Well, Glenn Hughes, it's been fantastic talking to you.
Thank you, brother.
Looking forward to the next Backcountry Communion album.
Me too.
It's called 2, which is out next month, I believe, isn't it?
That's right.
So we're looking forward to that on the tour, and it's good to see you still alive.
Thank you.
And like the banner says, built to last.
Built to last.
Built to last. Most certainly are. Thank you very much, Glenn. All the best. Thank you.